There it is.
Good morning, cuz. I got to tell you, I mean, I'm not really looking very much like that guy in that video right there. So I'm pretty well strapped in right here with this brace, but it's getting better. So it won't be long before I act out there in the activities.
You're the bionic man.
I'm the bionic man.
You are.
I'm a $6 million man right now.
Yeah. Yeah. No, you're
I'm being put back together tendon by tendon right here.
well, that's why, it's amazing. You're God bless you. All right. Nobody's like it. You don't even realize that when you're not on, we still talk about you.
Really? Like, are you talking like good stuff? Like I'm like a good. I mean, is it just football stuff?
Good
like,
stuff.
What are you guys doing in these conversations?
No, we have travel conversations, we have life conversations, right?
Yeah.
We and you come up like in the middle. We have meat conversations, right? Like, and you just organically come up in the conversation. Like,
well, I ate a lot of meat yesterday. I mean, I'm a straight carnivore right now. So I mean,
did you
I
get
cooked
the butcher
I cooked
box?
PHLYs.
I got to get you the butcher box.
Yeah, no, the butcher box is awesome, man. I love their stuff.
Yeah, $20 off your first box too.
All right.
All right.
My sister sent me the butcher box last year when I upgraded her first class on a flight to Paris. So I'm well aware of what's inside that surprise package that the box sends. And it's like I could do your advertisement for you right here because I know everything. I know the dry ice. I know how fresh it is. I know like all I need to do in order to take it out of the freezer, put it on the grill, salt it up. I mean, I got the whole butcher box down.
That's fabulous. Fabulous. So a couple things before we get into the NFL schedule, and this is a great travel day because, one of the things about the schedule is you start looking at destinations, right? You start looking at, where you want to go and bucket list. And people don't realize that your email address is Travel Dog. All right. I'm not going to give out where, but it's Travel Dog. Like you are, you love it. You love it. And it was funny because JP, can we show JP, Andrew? JP is, say hello to Baldy.
It's tight. It's tight to show JP, yeah.
Anyway, well, you can still hear him. JP is from Colombia.
Okay.
My parents are from Colombia. So my dad was born in Medellin. He moved to Cali when he was 13. So my family is all in Cali, and I'm getting married there at the end of July in Cali, Colombia.
Yeah, great spot, man. My buddy is in Medellin right now, and
That's
I would have
awesome.
gone with them, except that I felt like I'd been a liability going down there the way I got to go right now. So, no, I love Colombia, man. I love the food. I love the people. Medellin is such a young city. I mean, it's just. I don't know. It functions. It functions pretty good to me.
They're pretty advanced. Did you ride the cable car, Baldy?
Yeah.
That's pretty
Oh,
impressive.
yeah. Well, I've seen Pablo's, his house and his museum and the whole thing. Like I get Colombia. I get their past history and what they did and why they were able to be successful at it. I mean, the thing that's interesting to me about Medellin, specifically in Colombia, is when the Spanish came and they burned their ships, they were looking for farmland. Yeah. And it's so fertile. Like they figured out, and they still figured out, that in this valley that Medellin is built in, it's built around these huge hills, right? And it looks like this Spanish fort from up above. But what they realized is this was as fertile a ground as there was. And they could raise their cattle and their crops, and they could sustain life. And then they had all this water coming out of the hills. They had everything that they needed, and they built this beautiful city.
This man's awesome. This man is awesome.
I told you. Listen, he knows everything.
He's right.
He shows a history lesson.
And that's the beauty
it's amazing.
of it.
Like produce is so good in Colombia.
If you eat an avocado from Colombia,
It's a
you
football.
won't taste another avocado that good or fresh anywhere in the world. I don't care. I can grow in my backyard. It's not going to taste as good as it does in Colombia. So you go to eat, you're eating the freshest food.
Oh, yeah.
And how about the meat? Like we talk about meat, like their cattle is renowned.
Yeah. Nice little churrasco down there. Or like they do the skirt steak too, but they add like that flavor to it. It's vaca. Una vaquita.
It's incredible.
That's awesome, Baldy.
Well, VG, tell Baldy what one of our listeners said.
Let me find it real quick. They said that when you go on vacation, you go to travel to planets. And you're like, hey, Ant, I'm traveling right through Kuiper's belt right now.
You bypass Earth. You're on other planets now.
Well, I mean, if Elon wants to put me on one of his spaceships to Mars, I'm there. I'm going. I'll go to Mars.
That is Baldy's next frontier.
Yeah.
Baldy takes over the universe.
Yeah, I love
takes
it.
over the
I love
galaxy.
It. All right, let's get to the schedule. So first, before we get to Eagles and destinations and everything else, let's just talk about the general overview of the schedule. Hey, right off the bat, how about the NFL, Baldy? You've been in this league since 1982?
82.
All right, you've been in this league. I could be your biographer. The fact is, Christmas Day's on a Wednesday.
Yeah.
And I remember you and I, we were doing the show and we were talking and we were like, they're going to do it, but, will they? Will they do it on a Wednesday, which is the ultimate day because it's impossible. Wednesday's the worst day for football. Here it is. The NFL just went, it's ours, Christmas Day.
Well, I mean, look, Christmas fell on a Wednesday, and so they're playing 2 games on Wednesday. But honestly, here comes Netflix. And Netflix is saying, we'll pay you $75 million a game. Give us 2 games. All right? So we make $150 million putting these 2 games on. And they've got a worldwide audience. Like the subscriptions to Netflix is just, as strong in Italy and in Singapore as it is in the United States. So it's going to get a global reach on Christmas Day. Look, we've always watched sports. I used to be, I grew up on Long Island. I'd take the Long Island Railroad and go see the Knicks on Christmas, back in the day. Pay $6 for the nosebleeds and see how low I could get. But, that's going to steal the NBA's thunder. Like, that's the NBA's come out day is Christmas Day. And they're going to usurp that right now.
It's unbelievable. The brilliance of adding the 3rd game on Thanksgiving, adding the Black Friday game,
Yep.
right? Like the nuances of the schedule, it's unbelievable. It's just.
I mean, we probably talked about this back in the day, cuz, but we always thought when they would kind of beyond Sunday and Monday, and they started adding Thursday, and initially, back in whatever the year was, 2005 or 6, we thought, they're going to get a saturation point. We're going to saturate this, and there's going to be a blowback from it. Well, they can't saturate. You can't saturate any event, whether it's a schedule release or the draft or the playoffs or any, we haven't gotten to that point. And the fact is that television drives this entire industry. That's why this year, 13 teams are going to play at least 2 games on 4 days rest. Saturday to Wednesday, Sunday to Thursday. It used to be you only had to do it once. Well, now 13 teams are doing it twice. And so all it's doing is greasing the skids to get to 18 games. They're going to get to 18 games. They're going to cut back 2 preseason games. And they're going to take this thing all the way to President's Weekend in February. Like, I'm not breaking news here. It's just going to happen. They got to appease the NFLPA and the players, and they'll figure out how to do it. But that's where it's going to get. It's going to get to 18 games. But the fact is that television drives all the ratings. It drives this entire industry. It always has. It's a perfectly, made sport for television with all the replays and angles, all that. But 48 of the top 50 shows on television last year were NFL games. So we haven't reached the saturation point.
And by the way, you're not. It's not like you're going to go from, 16 to 17 to 30, right? Like you're going to 18 and you'll add a double bye. And the interesting thing is that you look at each game as an inventory. See, I love back in the day, if you remember the NCAA tournament, how they did it, where all the games would tip off the same time. And then they would do the look-ins, right? Then they realized, well, why are we doing that? Let's stagger the games.
Thursday, Friday,
it's
Saturday,
the
Sunday.
same theory in that you have a week, right, where you have X amount of games, depending on buys. Every one of those games, people would watch. The NFL back in, nobody thought that you would watch, like if the Cardinals were bad and they were playing the Falcons, you went, like, who's watching that game? Now you will. Between all the fantasy and betting and everything else, and the spectacle of the NFL, you put Falcons, Arizona Cardinals on a Wednesday, Tuesday, Thursday, Saturday afternoon. I'm watching it.
I know. Look, I mean, and then, part of the reasons why they really expanded the number of teams to have multiple games on 4 days of rest is because, honestly, Amazon Prime is going, these games stink. Like, we need better games. So if you want better games, you got to get better teams. So the Kansas City Chiefs are playing in prime time right now, 8 times. All right, they play on 6 different days of the week. But that's what Mahomes does. That's what great quarterback play does. That's what great team. We just want to see greatness. So you look at the schedule now. I was listening to Al Michaels the other night, and Al Michaels, I mean, he was flat out brutally honest. He goes, it was hard to sell some of those games they put on last year. Jacksonville, Carolina, whatever it was. I'm not bashing either team. I'm just saying there wasn't a lot of interest to analyze those games. But you put Patrick Mahomes on the field, it all changes. And so now the good teams are in such demand. And what we get with this last draft is we get Caleb Williams. We might get another star quarterback. We hope we do. We hope Bryce Young works out. We anticipate C.J. Stroud to even get better. Because if you get great quarterback play, you're going to get great football. The way the league is structured, the rules are structured, you get great quarterback play. As an analyst, I just want to get the hell out of the way. Like, they're gonna give you all the sensation and all the plays. Like, if you just put a camera on Josh Allen, you're never going to be disappointed. You're always going to be entertained.
Yeah. And the other beauty of this quarterback class is, for their first year, I want to see all of them, right? Like, I want to see all these kids play. Like, and so that'll also drive it. We know they're not all going to be stars, but I'm interested to see them, to analyze them. So I think the new blood also at that position also adds to the intrigue.
It does. I mean, I do think a J.J. McCarthy could benefit if Sam Darnold's any good in Minnesota. I do think that Bo Nix is get on the field. I don't know. I mean, I would anticipate Sean Payton's just not going to hand him the job. No. That he's going to have to beat out Jared Stidham and Zach Wilson. They'll have some level of competition. But if you're as good or better, obviously. But I mean, if there's any sort of okay, let's just put them out there. Let's let them play from the beginning and take their lumps and move on. I mean, I expect Michael Penix Jr. to play. I know what they did with Kirk Cousins, but I still expect him to play at some point this year.
Yeah, it's fascinating. Who do you think was a winner of the schedule, and who do you think was a loser of the schedule, in the sense that, like, the Jets had a nasty stretch, the Steelers have a brutal stretch. They have to play the Chiefs, the Ravens, and the Eagles in span of 11 days.
There's a lot of teams, including the Jets, to start the season, that have to play 3 games in 11 days. That's how the Jets have to start. But that Pittsburgh Steeler schedule, I mean, I got it right here. Like, it is, like, they have a bye week 9. Okay. And they go to Washington off the bye. Okay. Then this stretch that you just speak of. They play Baltimore at home. They play Cleveland on 4 days rest at Cleveland. Then they go to Cincinnati. They come back and play Cleveland at home. They go to Philly. They go to Baltimore in a short week, got to play on a Saturday. And then they play Kansas City on Christmas. Oh. And then they finish with Cincinnati. So they play all their division games down the stretch, along with Baltimore, Philly, and Kansas City. Like, it's unreal. Like, that's now the only team that has a tougher schedule, honestly, over the course of the whole season, is Cleveland. Like, they've got the toughest schedule right now. So, but all these teams in the AFC North. Look, every team had a winning record last year. 3 teams went to the playoffs. So, I mean, they're just good, well-built teams in every one of those cities. So you got to deal with your own division, and it's ironic. Last year, Pittsburgh, even with the terrible quarterback play that they had last year, and 3 quarterbacks, and they threw a combined 13 touchdown passes in 17 games. Like, they still were 5-1 in their division last year.
Yeah, yeah. They're so well coached. Their defense, when their defense is healthy, obviously it's really good. How do you think Russ does? I mean, what's your gut on Russ, to talk about them for a moment?
I think he's going to play behind the best offensive line he's ever played behind. I think that's going to help. They're going to run the ball like they did in Seattle when he was there. It's going to limit. He's not going to throw it 40 times. First of all, it's just not the way they play football in the AFC North. They don't. Maybe Joe Burrow can do that because he's just such a pinpoint accurate thrower, and he's got elite receivers. But mostly, you're a run first team in the AFC North, and I think that's going to help Russ. Like, I think he's past the point of letting Russ cook and all that nonsense that he was spouting a couple of years ago. I think he's going to have success. I really do. He's playing with a great defense, and when he won in Seattle, they were the number 1 defense in football 4 straight years in a row from the standpoint of giving up the fewest points. So he always had a good defense. And then whatever DK Metcalf, Tyler Lockett, whatever guy, Doug Baldwin, guys that he had out there in the field, he figured out a way to get him the ball. I think he's going to have success. Like, he knows, like, he's been bounced out of Seattle, bounced out of Denver, but in the heart of the guy is a football player and a competitor. So I think he's going to play well. And, I know Justin Fields is sitting there, but I don't think he's a threat to him right now. And look, I mean, you look at the schedule. Where's Pittsburgh going week 1? They're going to Atlanta. Why? Well, there's Kirk Cousins there. Here's Russell Wilson. Like, let's put these 2 teams together. We all think they're better with the new quarterbacks than what they were. Let's let them battle it out week 1.
I also like the way Najee played last year. I thought Najee got back to run. He showed me something. I was doubtful, and that to have those 2 backs, they complement each other well. And I thought Najee ran the ball really well, especially over the last half of the season.
Yeah, I mean, the offensive line got better. Roderick Jones went to right tackle. Isaac Seumalo, like they improved it. It should be better, even much better this year. They did not pick up the 5th-year option for Najee. I think Jalen Warren's a better player. I've said that since day one. Like, he just breaks more tackles. He's more explosive. He's a better blocker. But there's a place for both of them. I mean, Najee is – you go meet Najee, and it's like Derrick Henry. Like, there's only a couple backs that have ever played a game that look that kind of – like, he's big. He's a big guy. He's not exceptionally quick. He does need to get a good runway in order to break runs, and he did. And he got the runways last year and the clean holes. Like, he had a good second half of the season, like you said.
Yeah. All right. Let's go through the Eagles' schedule, all right? Mm-hmm. And let's just go through just kind of themes. Like, no W's and L's, just themes, all right? Like, what the theme, and we'll dive into it. So first, obviously, I believe you'll be on this trip. And I
hope so, bud. I've already got it blocked out. I hope I'm on a Varig Airlines flight to Sao Paulo, Brazil. I hope.
I mean, I say it, dude. I say it.
By the way, real quick, real quick, cuz the national, not anymore, but back in the day, the national airlines of Brazil was Varig Airlines. So one year they had this promotion. Okay, you could fly anywhere in Brazil for $300 total on Varig Airlines over a 30-day stretch of time. $300, you could go to Brasilia in the Amazon, Sao Paulo, Rio, pick a city, get on a Varig flight, and you had a coupon, $300 anywhere. We went for 16 days in Brazil one year, just bouncing around city to city. We lost at the casino tonight. Let's get the hell out of here. Let's go someplace else. Bam, on the flight the next day.
Did you go to Recife?
I've been to Recife. I like Salvador de Bahia. Salvador de Bahia is on the coast, and there's a party going on. Forget about Carnival. Everybody parties during Carnival around the world. But Salvador de Bahia, now that's That's a conga line and a party that never stops.
Conga line. It's awesome. That's fabulous. Oh my
Yeah.
God. Like, you know what's great? The way you travel, right? Because I gotta bring this up. So you have no rules on your journeys, and that means like you could pick up at any moment and leave and go somewhere else. You might disappear for 2 days or 3 days.
Well, there's an old Zen saying, cuz it says, "'Tis better to travel well than it is to arrive." Meaning it's what happens along the way that really makes the trip. Anybody can just fly to Rome and go see the Colosseum, and anybody go to Florence and go see David. But like, what are you doing along the way that makes it a trip? So I always subscribe to that Zen theory.
What was your so you always go, like, you could pivot at the last moment, right? Like, so if you recall some of your journeys, do you recall some of the great pivots? I mean, obviously, when you're when you're like that, you might stumble into some of the greatest moments ever, or it could be you could wind up in a precarious situation.
Well, I'll tell you one. It didn't benefit me, but it benefited my brother and my buddies. It's July 4th. We're in Milan. We're at this club called Club Hollywood. And we're down in this club. It's a typical Italian club. There's just gorgeous girls everywhere, models, right? In the model, they're in the fashion world, some level. So we're down there and we're drinking basically $12 warm Heinekens, and I'm rolling my eyes at my brother, going, "Let's get out of here, man. Like, this place sucks. Like, nobody's looking at us. They're not interested in us. We're all 300 pounds. Everybody else is a model. Like, what are we doing here?" So I go, let's get the hell out of Milan. So I bail. So I go back to the hotel, and I'm already packing up. I'm getting out. I'm going to get on a train tomorrow, and I don't know where we're going. We're going to the boot someplace. My brother stays. Turns out the owner of the nightclub is the biggest Kansas City Chief fan ever. My brother's playing for the Chiefs. All of a sudden, champagne just starts coming my brother's way. And my buddies are pouring champagne. All of a sudden, the girls start coming. So now the girls are coming, and they're all drinking champagne with the girls. I'm sound asleep thinking I'm going to get my rest, get an espresso in the morning, get the boys up. We'll get on a train. We'll get the hell out of here. My brother stumbles in at 6 in the morning. He goes, "Bro, you missed the best night ever." And I'm like, why didn't I just stay with my lughead brother and have that type of night,
Oh, man. Oh, my God. The best, I don't know if you can tell this one, but when they were looking for you the other side, where were you, Malta? Like, where?
Oh, I got caught up, man. I got caught up in Malta. Man, if people haven't been to Malta, like, you can't even fathom the level of partying. It's this one big spring break trip. But I got caught up in this casino, man. I was just chasing it. And I was just drinking, and like, my buddies were looking for me for 2 freaking days. I didn't know. I lost track of time. And my buddies were looking for me for 2 freaking days. They put out a missing persons report on me. Like, where is this guy? I love Malta.
Malta! Yeah. Malta! All right? Are you kidding me? That's fabulous. Oh, my God. What's
the thing about Malta, though, is, it's this little floating island between Italy and Africa. And everybody's conquered Malta. Everybody. Yeah. So everybody that conquered it left some kind of mark. So whether it's the architecture or buildings or ruins or whatever, like, there's something from every era. Before the Greeks, had their civilization, or the Egyptians, people were conquering Malta. So, like, just from a history standpoint, it's a really cool place.
Well, in that area, I mean, it's like they all get conquered, right? Like Sicily. You look at all the cultures, like all those Mediterranean islands, right? Because of the spice trade, right? When you're going on, like, all that stuff it's fascinating. And you're right. Every great civilization leaves a mark, right? In the architecture, in the food, right? Like what was brought over, the spices, the culture of it. It's awesome. What's the greatest? I'll give you this because I don't think you could just do one. The greatest 3 party destinations that you've ever been to.
Well, you got to go to Bali, Kuta Beach. Like it's overrun by Australians. It's a it's a great destination for Australians who want to get off the island, go someplace else and party. Like go to Bali. Like that party's just next level. It just is. You're on Bali. It's tropical as hell. It's hot as hell, humid as hell, but it's pretty fantastic. All right. I would say it's hard to beat Rio de Janeiro. It's just hard to beat Rio.
Yeah.
I mean, it's not exactly the safest place in the world. I wouldn't tell anybody not to go there. But if you stay on Copacabana Beach, Ipanema Beach, you stay in like certain areas, like those nightclubs, like even if you don't go to the discos or the nightclubs, like the party on the beach is a good party. I mean, whatever it is that you're looking for, whatever you like doing, you could do in Rio for sure. And then I would say, like, you can't really go wrong if you're in, if you're on the Nicoya Peninsula of Costa Rica and you're in Hermosa Beach. Like, I don't know, you're at the Banana Club when the sun's going down and the party's coming up. Like and they're having some surf competition right there, and all the girls are watching, and the sun's going down, and the beers are just being pounded. Like, that's a good natural party.
Yeah. Well, there's a culture. What I love is that culture that just follows the party, right? Like you Costa Rica, the Jaco Beach, and the surfing, and like they just go from kind of destination to destination. Like you hole up for 3-4 months and then move on. Like there's that whole culture, and you've encountered those people.
Well, there is that culture, but then you also could just go to Amsterdam and just go out every night of the week, and the bartenders are drinking more than you are, as they just give away drink after drink. Amsterdam is pretty unique. It's pretty unique. All of Holland is like that, but like it's just Amsterdam. It's very condensed into a very small area, so you can just bounce in one place, and and if you have any World Cup soccer, you got any. I was just watching this Netflix thing with David Beckham. Yeah. Like, if you're just watching any kind of a big soccer match in Holland, like, I mean, there's a party that's watching it with you.
That's fabulous. All right, let's do this real quick. Let's go through the schedule.
Yes.
All right. So we started. We were on Brazil. One game. All right. We didn't even talk football. Eagles Packers is a great game because, look, we talk about the Packers' weapons all the time. That's going to be a tough game for the Birds.
No, it's going to be tough. I mean, it's the first game. So, and Green Bay's got a new defensive coordinator, so it's going to look a little different in what they're doing. So it'll be new to them. But then same thing for Green Bay. So it's two teams that are kind of rebranding themselves and how they're going to run their offense and defense, kind of going at each other. So, and you got elite quarterbacks. So I think for the Eagle fans, what Jalen Hurts are we getting? Are we getting 2022 Jalen Hurts? Like, what are we getting an elite player? I think there's a big question mark about that right now.
All right. Week 2, Monday night, home Atlanta.
As soon as I saw that game, I'm like, the Eagles own Kirk Cousins. You go back to NFC Championship game, other Monday night games. Like, he has not come to the link and played well. He just hasn't. So, I mean, I just feel like opening game, Monday night, Philadelphia. They're going to be in the parking lot starting on Saturday afternoon. Like, the energy is just going to be, I just feel like that's the Eagles win.
Eagles at New Orleans. So Eagles, Saints. New Orleans is one of my favorite cities. I'm sure it's one of yours because it's so different. It's got such a great vibe to it.
No, I mean, look, the city's great. It's unique. The culture is great. The building is tough place to play. I think the last time the Eagles were there was in the playoffs and they got beat after being up like 14-0. But that's okay. None of these guys were on that team. Like, this is a winnable game. I mean, New Orleans, they're trying to figure out, is Derek Carr the answer at quarterback? They just brought in Clint Kubiak, new offense coordinator, new offensive line coach, new way. Like the Sean Payton thing is gone. So they've got to defend some talented players: Kamara, Olave, Rashid Shaheed. Let's watch their defense. Take this game over.
One spot in New Orleans, Eagle fans have to go.
Well, you can't go wrong. Going to Brennan's. You can't go wrong going into any oyster house. You're never going to be disappointed. First of all, you're going to try to figure out what that Cajun accent really is and what are they saying, and you're going to be entertained as they're shucking these oysters for you. Like, it's fantastic.
Yeah, it's awesome. At Tampa, which is the revenge game from the playoff.
Yeah, it's the scene of a crime. Like, you're going back to the crime scene right here. Like, all right, Tampa, they beat the Eagles up every way you could beat a team up. But there's Mike Evans out there and Godwin and Baker. Like, okay, are they just going to have their way like they did? Baker threw 3 touchdowns against the Eagles. He was nearly touched. And then offensively, are they going to get back to, Saquon and running the football and making Tampa pay for having I like Kalijah, can't see a lot, but he's 285-pound defensive tackle. Like, make him pay for being that size playing up front.
Browns. After the bye, they got the Browns. So they have the week 5 bye, and then Cleveland comes in.
Yeah. Well, look, you come off a bye. You're going to be, it's early in the season. Nobody wants the week 5 bye, but you should be very, very healthy, and you should be very fresh. And look, Cleveland is, they are an elite defense. They're going to play press man coverage on all these receivers. So let's see AJ earn his money, Devontae earn his money. Like, they're going to get right up there, right in their grill, and that's how they play. Denzel Ward is 5'10". He's sticky. Like, I take AJ Brown over Denzel Ward every day. So let's just see the receivers win these matchups outside.
And then we go to the Saquon game.
Yep.
Eagles at Giants.
I would imagine, I know this is cliche, but I would imagine Saquon circled his game right away. Like, when am I going to MetLife Stadium? And let me just look at, Brian Dable and, the Mara family and everybody else in that organization, and let's just remind them of who I am. Like, I would think Nick Sirianni, Kellen Moore will play into that. And I would imagine that no matter what he's done so far during the season, that they're going to feature Saquon. He'll be the captain of the game. Like, I would imagine it's Saquon's day.
How about the Bengals? So they go to see Joe Burrow, Halloween looming in Cincinnati.
Yeah. Well, I don't think Cincinnati's defense is very good. I like their coordinator. I like some of the players, but they're being rebuilt on the fly. But it's just a question of, can you stop Joe Burrow from doing what he does? Like, all right, you got all these new corners, and there's Jamar Chase. Like, when the ball's in the air, who's making the play? Because if you let Jamar Chase get to it first, he's going to get it every time. So Joe is – but I don't think – they're 2 tackles. I like Zeus as a person and a friend. But Trent Brown, Zeus out there, like, I don't know. They brought Bryce Huff here and gave him $51 million. I want to see him, have that elite takeoff and smoke these guys.
Have you spent any time in Cincinnati?
Yeah, of course. My college roommate was from Cincinnati, Mount Adams.
What's your Cincinnati vibe?
I still think it's like a baseball town. I don't know. I grew up with the Big Red Machine.
Yeah.
Like, it's, I always thought it was more baseball than football. You go to any Red game now, and it's still, the whole place is just a sea of red going through that city.
Then it's the Doug Peterson game as Doug EP returns Sunday Night Football, Jacksonville. And listen, he's on a hot seat.
I would say so. The way they, collapsed in the playoffs the year before, how they played last year. It's interesting. If you look at Trevor Lawrence and you look at Gardner Minshew and you put their statistics up side by side.
Text. Because I love Lawrence. And he was terrible. Absolutely terrible last year.
Yeah. Well, he had some injuries. I'm not making excuses. All quarterbacks got to go through it, but he's got to play better. But they have a pretty talented roster. So I don't know, like we kind of know what they're going to do and how they're going to play. Uh, you know, I don't think anybody is picking Jacksonville to win that division this year over Houston and an improved Indianapolis team. So it's a game that you got to take care of business in.
All right, November 10th. Ta 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 ta. At Dallas. Eagles. Cowboys. 425. Brady in attendance. AT&T.
Well, I mean, look, these are classic games. They have flipped coins. Who's winning the division year in, year out? They usually split. Philly has gone down there and won. Vice versa. But look, they know that this is this is the rivalry. I mean, this is the Eagles' biggest game every year, and so who are the Cowboys? I mean, is Zeke really going to be a player? I mean, you look at his numbers over 8 years; he's declined every single year.
Yeah,
and they're counting on him. Outside of figure out how you're going to defend CeeDee Lamb, and I think you could shut that team down.
Then home Washington. So we get to see Daniels for the first time.
Yeah, well, look, I mean, Washington last year put up 31 points in each game against the Eagles. They couldn't defend him. Terry McLaurin didn't matter. Dotson, they carved the Eagles up. McLaurin's been killing the Eagles since the day he got in this league. So is that going to continue with Jaden Daniels? I would think that Washington's defense is going to be better just because Dan's coordinating it and running it. And they need to be better. They were horrible last year.
Then L.A. In fact, Violations Greg said his bucket list is to go to Los Angeles with you.
Okay. Well, I mean, if I take him to Los Angeles, the NFL Network is attached to SoFi Stadium, so we can take a tour of the network and then walk, right into the stadium from there and go see, this great coaching staff of Sean McVay and a really good team. But the Eagles have gone out to Los Angeles quite a few times and taken care of business against the Rams. Yeah. Not saying that, what Carson Wentz did to him back in the day when he got hurt, they've owned the Rams out there. And I would expect no less.
You take me to Venice Beach, Baldy.
Fans in that stadium.
Hoping you take me to Venice Beach. We'd hang out, have a little fun, little sun.
Let's go. Let's get off Venice. Let's go down to Manhattan Beach. Yeah.
See, I don't know if I'm in Baldy shape.
Manhattan Beach is.
I've never been.
Harry O's.
Yeah.
Manhattan Beach. It's a great spot. Baltimore. This is a tough game for them. You got to go L.A., then come back, a bus later, and go play the Ravens.
Yeah. All right. Well, we'll see where the Ravens are at health-wise at that point. We're starting to get into the point of the season where there's kind of the dwindling of the group. So let's see how. I mean, look, I've seen Cleveland go in there and win last year. I mean, teams go into Baltimore and win. Kansas City went in there and won. It's really about stopping and forcing them not to run the ball. And that's what Kansas City did. That's what Cleveland did. And so, look, it's a challenge. They're going to have a rookie right tackle out there. I don't know. I'd want to line up against Rosengarten and see what he's got. If I was Bryce Huff or Josh Sweat or any of those guys, Nolan Smith, I'd want to go see what he's got, feel his punch.
Carolina, you get the layup with the Panthers.
Yeah, that's what it is. Yeah, you just don't overlook them because you got the Steelers next. I mean, that's a big matchup right here.
Yeah, well,
week 15.
25. Steelers. Yeah, that's a great game. I love Eagles Steelers. That's a great battle of PA.
Yeah, it's the Steagles, man. Back when they combined teams during the war.
Yeah. And then, of course, you end with the 3 division teams. So I'll ask you to wrap this up. How many wins?
Yeah, I'm bullish on the Eagles. But it's gonna be. I think there's just a lot of new players and people they're counting on. I don't know that you're going to just digest a Vic Fangio playbook in a couple of preseason. I think it might take a little while. But I can see them easily being 11. They were 11-6 last year with a collapse. I can see 11-6 or 12-5 this year for sure.
Yep, that's what I thought. I thought 12 kind of looked right, looking at the schedule, how it all fell into place. So I'm with you. What's on tap for the weekend, brother?
I'm getting on a plane, heading to Fort Lauderdale in about an hour right now. So I'm heading down south and going to take this brace off and see what the ocean feels like. It's been a little while.
Nice.
Yeah.
Enjoy it, my brother. Safe travels. The
Thanks,
great
guys.
Baldy.
We all silly like the mayor.